Hello everyone, welcome to Gary Mac Studio. Today I'm going to show how I made this table. It's a resin table and made out of walnut burl. And there's a little vessel I turned to go on top of it. So here in a few minutes we're going to go and discover how I'm going to show how I built this table. And if you would, please subscribe to Gary Mac Studio and hit a likes on there if you would. And but first, before I get into how I made this table, built this table, I like to give a short little story of true life events that are funny and comical. So I'm going to tell one on my brother here in just a moment, and then we'll get right into how I built this table. So y'all please subscribe and say hello, and we'll get right on this. But first, before we get into this table, I want to tell I like to tell true life stories. I like to tell a short little story on these videos before I get started. This was on my brother. My brother and I worked for different companies, and we freelanced for planning and scheduling turnarounds for oil refineries. So all these companies, anytime you change these jobs, they require you take a physical so that they're sure you're not going to die when you're out there in the plant or something, have a heart attack. So we had to go into Corpus Christi and take this physical before we start. And they did very thorough physicals. They check your heart and all this stuff and blood, and they do drug tests and the whole works. And he's going to check our prostate. And if you've never had a prostate inspection, they hurt. And you who never had one or don't know what it is, they go into your rectum with their finger and feel around your prostate to make sure there's no lumps or anything in there, and everything's okay and internal. So I went in and did my physical and passed it, all the tests. And my brother went in, and I waited out for him so he could go back to Three Rivers. He come out of there with a big old smile on his face. I looked at him and I said, "What are you smiling at?" He goes, "Well, the doctor, he checked my heart, he checked all my stuff, and I was okay. And then he come to going to check my prostate, and he said he reached over and he grabbed some of those rubber gloves, started putting those on. He said, I just reached over there and grabbed me one of them and started putting it on. He said that doctor looked at him and said, well, what are you doing? My brother goes, we're not going to hurt each other, are we? So that's my funny little story. Now then, let's get right into how I built this table. Okay, I started with some 3/4 inch plywood, and I built this jig for a router, which is a straight cut bit, so I could cut out a perfect circle. And it took a couple of passes to get it cut through, but this was the substrate for my resin and this burl that I was going to cast into that black resin. And I had to position those all around this board, and then I built a dam around it to that would hold the epoxy. And it worked real good. So we'll show you how that worked here in a little bit. So I had this walnut burl, and it was too uh, it was too rotted to try and turn on the lathe, so I just sliced it up and I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? So I decided that I was going to use it to cast into a black resin tabletop, because the grain in it is very beautiful, and so instead of just wasting it, I sliced it up and it made something beautiful from it. And here I just took some construction paper and built up a mold around it about an inch and a half tall, where it would contain the resin, and it worked good. That construction paper worked real good for a mold, and it just sanded right off when I got through. Well, I got this poured up, and I'm fixing to mill off this surface. And here's what I did. I made this simple little sled where my router will run down through here like this. And I've got this planer bit on here, and I'll run it back and forth, and you can see right here where it hit the high spot, and I'll keep going over this until it's all milled out smooth, and then I'll sand it and polish it. Here's what it looked like after I made a few passes, and I cut down through the resin right down to the wood, or almost to the wood, and it took several trips down through there to get that planed off. This was about the third pass through, and it was cutting on down, getting close to getting it all leveled off, and getting down to the epoxy. You can see some of the dark places that hadn't got hit with the wrap. Okay, here we're getting closer. There's still a few little voids in there that I had to fill, but I got it planed off pretty level right here. I've got it all sanded and just about ready to finish, but I'm making the base right now for it, and this is going to be the base. And this part right here is going to be sculpted. It's going to be sculpted up. All of this is going to look like one piece, and this will come. I'll have to hand carve all of this to get it like I want it, and then this line right here will come down and sweep around and make a concave area right there. Anyway, this is just a piece of walnut that I have back here in the back of my shop, and I was turning another piece to see if it looked any better than that one, which it looks pretty good. Look, I like this because it's going to kind of match all of these bug holes and stuff in this. It'll kind of match the bug holes and all of this stuff up here in this. It's a pretty good size table. It's a lot bigger than what the pictures show. Here's the way my lathe works. This head will swivel around from the bed on a 90 degree, and I can outboard turn this, and then my tool rest is it's got its own support system, so that I can turn a 28 inch. I can turn a 28 inch piece on this outboard. Okay, I thought I'd show you that. It's pretty cool how it works. And I want to turn this base. I'm going to turn this base on the outboard part of my lathe, where I can turn all this nice and even and smooth. I was going to hand carve it, but I figured out a way I can do it on the lathe. It'll be a lot better. Anyway, It's too big to. It's too big to do over the bed. It this piece here was just too big. It's 20. It's 21 inches across. But I did get this turned and smoothed out where the this this leg pedestal, whatever you want to call it, this table support will fit on there like that, and then I'll smooth all those out so it all looks like one piece. But I think it's going to look really nice. I think it's going to be pretty. Okay, here's where I'm at on this pedestal. I've got to, there's no way that I can get all of this to match in color. So I'm gonna have to do some staining on this part and this part to get it a little bit darker where it'll match that part, but it's gonna look pretty good on this tabletop whenever I get a finish on that. That's going to be a high gloss finish on all of this. Well, the stain matched out pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with it. It's got some pretty grain in there. And then this black part's where I filled in the cracks and imperfections in it, which will match the top. The top's black. Anyway, it's gonna be pretty. Well, I got the first coat of epoxy on this pedestal. It'll have to dry overnight, and then we'll see how it is. I may have to sand it and then polish it out, but we'll see. Here's the second coat on the pedestal part. It's looking pretty good. One more coat and it'll look like glass. Well, I got my first coat of sealer on the tabletop, and it's looking pretty good. This is the first coat of sealer, and I got 2 more to put on. Then I'll put the finish coat on and polish it out, and it's going to really look good. Isn't that? Isn't the grain in this wood? It's just beautiful. That looks like an oyster shell. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now on this tabletop. And then, okay, I sanded all this down with 80 grit, and you want to use a pretty heavy grit when you're doing this, because when you pour another coat on there, that next coat will adhere real good to that rough surface. And then every time you sand it, these little holes are going to pop up, so I had to fill those with some clear resin, and we'll sand it again and do it again as many times as it takes. Here's the tabletop. One more coat on there, and it'll look like glass. I keep getting a few little bubbles in it here and there. I got to stay on top of it, but it's already looking pretty good. See that one right there? Get one little bubble come up right there that I have to stay on top of, because if I let it harden, it'll show a bubble in it, and I don't want that. I've got the base all polished up. And this is going to be the base and the pedestal for my tabletop. And I want to get you over here and show you what it looked like after I polished it up. And it turned out quite nice. Turned out almost perfect. Got a nice glass-like finish on it. The camera shows kind of a haze on it, but in real life it doesn't have that haze. Yeah, Anyway, it doesn't show it in real life what it actually looks like, but it's close. Anyway, it's going to be pretty. I'm going to start assembling this thing, and I should be through with it this afternoon. Here's how I'm going to attach the top. I took a piece of steel and I drilled holes in it, and I've got these fasteners. And let me show you how these work. These work pretty cool. So what I'll do is I'll take these and I will drill down through here, and then these will sit inside, and then they've got threads on the inside. Let's see, I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's got threads on the inside of it. And what I'll do, this will go in up here, and then they'll go under here, and then I'll just screw this down to the top of this, and then I'll do the same thing on the tabletop. I'll reverse these. These will go up into the tabletop, and they will go on like this, and then a screw will go up through the bottom and attach the top to this. Bottom part, I'm just going to use lag bolts and bolt the pedestal down to the base. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm going to try and finish this up this afternoon. And here's where it sits. It's all finished up. It's all pretty. I just sit and stare at it sometimes, because man, I love the beauty of wood and that wood grain, and how nature just makes its own art, and all we have to do is enhance it. And anyway, that's my spiel on this table. And then this little vessel here that turned out really pretty to set on top of it. And there's a couple of my paintings I did. All right, we'll catch you guys on Turn Around. Be sure and subscribe to Gary Mac Studio. Bye-bye.